So, here's a thought. Why is there something rather than nothing? Surely it would be easier for the universe not to exist. Not just the universe, but also the many different flavors of multiverse now at our disposal. All the multidimensional paraphernalia of existence, surely it would be easier for existence not to exist. It would take less energy, cause less trouble, spawn less metaphysical speculation if it just failed to be, rather than all this rampant manifestation all over the place. There are, of course, multiple approaches to this question, but here are three. Number one, it's God what done it. Now, I don't mind, in principle, invoking the presence of super powerful beings whose powers and motivations are beyond our limited capacity to ken, but in this instance, I am not sure that it really helps very much. Quite apart from the old, if God created the universe, then what created God routine, and leaving aside the other minor detail of which particular flavor of God you might prefer, just asserting that God created everything doesn't address the original question of why. If we admit the possibility of divine intervention in the creation of everything, and I think we have to admit the possibility, then it becomes necessary to start speculating on the very motivations of God, and what wild and feverish speculation that would be. And so after rummaging around in that idea for a while, I am drawn to the conclusion that if God did create the universe, then he did it because he was bored, and he just wanted to see what would happen. It's a jape of cosmic proportions, but a jape nonetheless, and while we are down here hopping from foot to foot, he is up there laughing his ass off. Number two, next, the so-called anthropic argument. Why is there something rather than nothing? Well, there has to be something rather than nothing, because if there was only nothing, then there wouldn't be any inquisitive consciousness around to ask the question, why is there something rather than nothing? The very fact of asking the question, or being in a position to ask the question, infers some kind of necessity in the chain of causality leading all the way back to the creation of everything. Now, I always found this argument a little bit desperate. It smacks of smart agnostic people trying to defend their position against people of faith, but without being quite smart enough to avoid getting into that conversation in the first place. And so, therefore, I reject the anthropic position on the grounds of, that's just some weak tea, dude. Next, number three. Why is there something rather than nothing? There is no reason. There is no reason. There is no reason, because reason and the underlying principles of logic on which reason depends are explanatory constructs which are a function of observed patterns in space, time and causality operating from within the confines of the very universe that it is attempting to explain. So, whereas some people might conceivably be rational, the universe as a whole almost certainly is not. At least it's not only rational, and so any attempt to rationalize it all the way back to its origins and beyond are at best foolhardy, and in fact probably just plain wrong, unless we are prepared to admit the possibility that God is a rational being, in which case can open worms everywhere. So why is there something rather than nothing? Well, either it's God's jape, or it is because it is, or and personally I am drawn towards option 3, partly because it subsumes option 1 and 2 anyway, partly because I am comfortable with the idea that not every question has to have an answer, and partly because if we ever did actually discover the explanation for the whole of existence, I'm pretty sure it would be disappointing. And every week there'll be another video on the channel on one of these playlists. So please do subscribe. Please do. Oh, do.